What is happening, everybody? This is Dave Croft, and welcome to the 52 Qs podcast, where we are doing our live voting for our most recent composer quest, Pomp and Circumstances. Pomp and Circumstance. This is a composer quest that we've been running for the last several weeks here at 52 Qs, where our members have been writing their own custom arrangements of the graduation song. You know, the one with tassels and matriculation and all of that. And it's going to be a really good time. We've got folks hanging out in the chat already. We've got Mad About Nothing. We've got Dave. We've got Dex. We've got Nathan. We've got Brandon. Welcome. We've got 12 separate Qs that we are going to be checking out today. And then this episode will be hitting the podcast feed tomorrow. Now, this isn't a passive thing. If you're watching this live, or if you're watching this before Monday, then you have a job to do, because you get to vote for your favorites. And you know what? And the voting is actually a little bit different. It's not a winner take all type of situation. It is you rate them based off of a star system. And so if you like it, then give it the maximum number of stars. If you don't, then don't give it the stars at all. But it is so good to be with you, and we're going to have a fantastic time. What is up, Kasey? Hope really do appreciate you joining me today. For everybody, let me get my keynote and all of that happening. And so we are going to have a magnificent time today. And speaking of voting, when we are voting, what we're going to be doing is go over to 52qs.com/vote. And that looks just like this. So community voting, you don't need to pick just one favorite. Each cue will be played in its entirety following a brief introduction that was written by the composer. And you are going to rate each cue based on adherence to the brief, production quality, and overall musicality. And the results are determined by a star ranking system, recognizing the outstanding creativity and efforts of the top composer. So they are rated on a scale of 1 to 5. You can vote as we go, or you can vote at the end of all things. Now, as far as the brief itself, the brief was very, very simple. We wanted arrangements of the graduation march. I'm sure you've heard it a million times. Again, da 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 da. Everybody turn their hat, their tassels, and all of that stuff. Now, turns out that's a very, very long piece of music, and so there's a da da da, there's a march to it and everything. But what we know is that graduation mark. So here is the brief. It's time to dust off your cap and gown and give Sir Edward Elgar a fresh new sound. We're taking on the classic Pomp and Circumstance, which is Opus 39, number 1 in D major. Yes, the one you've heard at every graduation. Every genre is fair game, whether it's an orchestral, rock, hip-hop, EDM, cinematic, dramedy, or something completely off the wall. We want to hear how you would reimagine this iconic theme. So feel free to quote the melody directly, chop it up, flip it, or just sneak in a subtle nod, whatever fits your creative vision. The original piece is in the public domain, which means you're free to use the melody, but you cannot use or sample any of the existing recordings, which is why I'm not playing one, because I don't have a public domain recording pulled up here. The creative goals: put your own spin on Pomp and Circumstance. Stay true to your chosen genre's production values, let the arrangement and instrumentation tell the story, and avoid all existing recordings. And so we are looking between 1 minute and 30 and 2 minutes. So that's the brief. That's what we're going to be doing today. And I say, let's go ahead and get started. Again, really good to see you. Good to see you, Steve. Good to see you, Miss Juju Beats and Yuka and Dicha and Reed and George. Welcome. I am so happy to have you with us today. So again, voting works, and the voting is going to stay open until Monday morning. So over the weekend, you can check this out and you can vote. Go to 52qs.com/vote. And we'll put a link there into the chat if we haven't already. There we go. All right, so rate each cue from 1 to 5 stars. Vote based on the overall vibe, so you can go with your instinct. You're not answering to anybody. You don't have to vote for every cue, but we do hope you do. And the star system lets you recognize lots of great work and not just necessarily one winner. And voting helps. It's going to help you sharpen your ears and sharpen your chops. So let's go ahead and jump on in. Let's jump in. The first cue is from Mr. Del Peterson. Del sent along Walking Circumstances. He says, turns out I misread the deadline. Oops. So I cranked this out last minute, and honestly, it kind of worked. I leaned into intuition, gave myself only a few hours, and just let go. Sometimes creative panic is a superpower. Yeah, I could dig that. All right. So starting off the day, we have Walking Circumstances from Del Peterson. That was Walking Circumstances from Del. Del, thank you so much for sending this along. Again, go to 52cues.com/vote. Okay, next up, we have Holger. Holger sent along Pomp and Cajun fries. Holger Vaassen, by the way. For years, I've played that melody in different grooves just for fun. So when this challenge came up, I finally committed to the bit. This cue brings the classic march to a swampy second line with a dash of Dixieland and a wink to New Orleans style brass. All right, so here is Pomp and Cajun fries. All right, that was Pomp and Cajun fries from Holger. Oh, that is brilliant, Holger. Yeah, lots of fun things going on. Next up, we have Reed, and Reed says this one's all about big cinematic energy. I reimagined Pomp and Circumstance as a trailer cue, building tension and the excitement from a single motif: big drums, rising stakes, like a graduation with a boss battle at the end. So here is Commencement Crescendo from Reed Gesteland. That was Commencement Crescendo from Reed Gesteland. Reed, thank you so much for sending that along, man. That was absolutely stellar. Or, as Chris said, interstellar. All right, let's make one more adjustment here to the chat, and then I promise I'll quit fiddling with the chat. There we go. All right, excellent. Next up, we have Darin, and Darin sent along Pomp Revisited. And Darin says, a solo piano reflection with an improvisational vibe. I took liberties with harmony and phrasing to keep it conversational and emotionally loose, like someone quietly playing through their memories at an empty recital hall. Man, well, that got kind of sad there. All right, so let's take a listen to Pomp Revisited. All right, that was Darin Lewis with Pomp Revisited. Darin, thank you so much for sending that along. Yeah, I think you nailed it, conversationally, emotionally loose, like somebody quietly playing through their memories. Really, really nice work. All right, next up, we have Kasey with a coffee shop commencement. And Kasey says this is a chill, lo-fi reimagining of the classic melody, complete with bossa groove and cozy cafe vibes. I focused on reharmonization and texture, letting the track breathe while still keeping that recognizable tune in place. So here is Kasey Warren's rendition with a coffee house commencement. That was Kasey Warren with a coffee shop commencement. Stellar work, Kasey. Really, really appreciate you sending this along. Yeah. Did I catch a little Oye Como Va in there? Really, really nice job. All right. Next up, we have George. George sent along Pomp and Intimate Circumstances. This version is meant to feel both intimate and a bit mysterious, like you're listening in on private moment. I focused on minimalism, soft textures, and emotional tension without tipping into melodrama. So here is George Clerk with Pomp and Intimate Circumstances. right, that was George Clerk with Pomp and Intimate Circumstances. Man, there's a little bit of something in there for everybody. Really do appreciate you sending that along, George. Thank you so much. All right, next up, we have Mr. Nathan Toft. He sent along Ska and Circumstance. He says, I've been waiting for the perfect excuse to break out some upstroke guitar and horns, and this was it. A full-on ska reimagining with a bouncy groove and plenty of tongue-in-cheek energy. This is Nathan Toft's Ska and Circumstance. That was Ska and Circumstance from Nathan Toft, our resident trombone expert. And you know what, Nathan? If you hadn't done a ska arrangement, I was going to be really upset. So you have met my expectations. Really, really well done. Thank you so much for sending that along. All right, we are about halfway done. How's everybody doing out there? How are we doing? How are we doing, chat room? Got a lot of chatter happening in the chat room. You guys feeling good? Are we sick of this melody yet? I'm not. I don't know about you. Especially considering, like, if you graduated from a big high school or something, you probably had that just drilled into you for like 30 or 40 straight minutes. Terry's enjoying the tunes. Dex says, all the better for hearing you. George is good. Really do appreciate it. Yeah. You know, I don't know why I'm surprised. And Mrs. 52 Qs, you know, we talk about this all the time. I don't know why I'm surprised, but these are stellar. And I am always so amazed at the creativity that we have in the community here at 52 Qs. So really, really, really do appreciate all of the talented folks out there. Okay, next up, we have Enrico. Enrico sent along Pomp and Merry Dance, which is a Chipmunk Soundclash. When remixing this classic melody, I leaned into glitchy chipmunk vocals, chopped beats, and chaotic fun. It's whimsical, a little absurd, and totally designed to make you smile or maybe raise an eyebrow. So here is Enrico Caporale with Pomp and Merry Dance. All right, that was Pomp and Merry Dance, Chipmunk Soundclash from Enrico. Enrico, thank you so much for sending this along. Lots of folks in the chat loving this one. Dex says boss level. It does sound like game music. And oh man, it is my co-host from the West Coast, from the old Drummer Talk days, Mr. Troy Dares. Troy, my man. How are you doing? It's so good to see you, man. So good to see you. Thanks for dropping by today. All right, next up, we have Will Edwards, and Will sent along Pomp and Severance, or Severance. This terrifying circumstance is a decaying processional from an apocalyptic graduation. Distorted textures, broken harmonies, and crumbling ceremony vibes throughout. So, and now for something completely different. Here is Pomp and Severance. That was Pomp and Severance from Will Edwards. Man, you definitely got the chat room going with that one. Mrs. 52Q says, I know what you did last graduation. Several folks are like, number nine. Man, that was super cool. Will, thank you so much for sending that along. You guys are so creative. You're blowing me away here. All right, next up, we have Brandon Psenicka, or Psenicka, so I hope I didn't mispronounce that, with Chomp and Circumstance. You know what I'm enjoying most? I'm enjoying these titles. These titles are killing me, between Pomp and Cajun fries and Chomp and Circumstance. Oh, all right. Oh, excellent. All right. Is it Psenicka or Psenicka? I said it twice before I realized I didn't say it if I said it right. I got the silent P though, because, you know, us silent P brothers got to stick together. All right. So Brandon says, Chomp and Circumstance. As soon as I saw the challenge prompt, this title popped into my head and I couldn't shake it. The result: an over-the-top monster movie tribute with chomping low brass and dramatic build. Nom Pomp. Excellent. All right, so let's take a listen to Chomp and Circumstance. Off we go. No, I do not do creepy kids singing in a minor key, man. Nope, not a fan of that. I was a huge fan of this, but dude, creepy kids, that was creepy AF, man. It's like Will's was like creepy and safe and weird in a Fallout kind of way. This was like terrifying in a Final Destination kind of way. Shannon, you might need to come up here, or I need to go watch some cartoons and go get some eye bleach or some ear bleach. But Brandon, thank you so much for sending that along. Creepy kids singing in a minor key, always going to creep me out, man. All right. For those of you who were with us a couple of years ago when we did Fright Night, that was rough. That was pretty rough. Just because I have zero tolerance. I might look like a big burly dude, but I have zero tolerance for scary movies and stuff. So excellent. Thank you, Brandon. Next up, we have Lisa. Lisa Welchman sent along Dreaming of the Day. Dreaming of the Day captures the excitement of looking ahead toward graduation, toward the next big leap. I wanted a reflective, uplifting feel with a steady sense of motion, like the soundtrack to a hopeful walk across the stage. So here is Lisa Welchman with Dreaming of the Day. All right, that was Dreaming of the Day from Lisa Welchman. Lisa, thank you so much for sending that along. I really enjoyed that. Yeah, it had kind of a Disney vibe to it, and beautiful orchestrations and string programming and orchestra programming. Really well done. All right, next up we have Dave Cha with Graduate 08. I might be a little biased. I love that title. That's a great title. Us Daves also have to stick together. Dave says, this cue is a trap twist on the classic graduation march. Heavy 808s, stuttering hi-hats, and layered pads give it that graduation meets beat drop energy. Traditional with a modern edge. So here is Dave's rendition. This is Graduate 08. right, that was Dave with Graduate 08. Really, really nice job. Lots of love. Getting your flowers in the chat room. Dave, thank you so much for sending that along. Really, really did appreciate it. Yeah, Dave Gates said, I tell you what, I expected this to be quite aggressive, but it's actually also quite beautiful. Yeah, it's kind of mellow, kind of chill. Yeah, I'm down with that. I'm down with that. Awesome. All right, and last but certainly not least, we have Terry Bowen sent along Pomp and Circumstance rock anthem. He says, I stayed close to the original composition for this one, but brought it into full rock anthem territory, electric guitars, big drums, and soaring harmonies. It's Pomp with punch. So let's take a listen to Pomp and Circumstance rock anthem from Terry Bowen. That was Pomp and Circumstance rock anthem from Terry. Terry, thank you so much for sending that along. Yeah, lots of love, getting your flowers in the chat. Really do appreciate you sending that along. Now, we're about to listen through all of them one more time just to get them back in your ears. You can head to 52cues.com/vote. Right now, if you're watching this on the archive, if you're watching this or listening to this in the podcast, you can go to 52cues.com/vote, and we're going to rate each one from 1 to 5 stars. We're voting based on the overall vibe. What did you like? And you don't even necessarily need to compare it to the other ones, but just it's entirely up to you. You don't have to vote for every cue, but we hope that you do. And the star system is really there to let you recognize the great work and not just one winner. And voting helps sharpen your ears and dust off your composing chops, or really kind of help your composing chops. All right, so let's check it out. Let's go back all the way to the beginning, starting with Del Peterson with Walking Circumstances. Next up, we have Holger with Pomp and Cajun Fries. Next, we have Reed with Commencement Crescendo. with Pomp Revisited. Next up, we have Kasey Warren with A Coffeeshop Christmas. Then we heard George Clerk with Pomp and Intimate Circumstances. Then we had Nathan Toft with Ska and Circumstance. Then we had Enrico with Pomp and Merry Dance. And then we had Will Edwards with Pomp and Severance. And then we had Brandon with Chomp and Circumstance. I'm going to go a little bit further here. Chomp and Circumstance. Then we had Lisa with Dreaming of the Day. And we had Dave Cha with Graduate 08. And then finally, Terry Bowen with Pomp and Circumstance Rock Anthem. All right, so once again, head over to 52cues.com that's how they sound altogether. 52cues.com/vote. And when you go to that page, you're going to want to it should look like this. Scroll down just a little bit and the voting is right there. You give them your stars and move on from there. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't take a moment to talk a little bit about 52 Qs and about what we do here. If you're new to the community, if you're just passing by in the YouTube superhighway and you're like, what's this dude with the white glasses? Well, 52 Qs is a production music community. We are kind-hearted, generous, super creative, as is proven by what I'm showing here today, of composers just like you, working to write better cues and make their way through the production and library music industry. And we would love to have you. It is free to join 52 Qs, but we also have different subscription tiers starting at just $4 a month. And we have everything from live streams like you're seeing right now, which we do every single week. We have cue breakdowns. We have workshops, monthly workshops. We have feedback sessions via Zoom. I have weekly office hours, and we also pitch to real music libraries. So if you've been wondering, like, man, how can I kind of level up my game in the production music space, then head over to 52qs.com. Like I said, it is free to join, and we would love to have you. And while you're over on the voting page, if you would like feedback on your own cues, you can order up a feedback session right there. You can also book a one-on-one session with me. Would love to have you, including if you want to, I don't know, if you want to buy some cymbal samples, you can do that too. So lots of different ways that you can support the community. And so, yeah. Excellent. So that is going to do it for us today. Thank you so much for joining us. And did I miss anything, Mrs. 52 Qs? I don't think so. Lots of if you are running into issues with the voting page, which I don't think you will, just go to 52qs.com/vote. You might need to refresh that. Next week, speaking of Mrs. 52 Qs, she is going to be joining me because we need to talk about metadata. Metadata is super important. It's kind of like search engine optimization for your cues, and it's one of those things that's kind of a drag to kind of fill out, because you're like, oh, I got to fill out the description, I got to fill out, the title and keywords and all that stuff, and it can feel kind of not. It's one of the least fun parts of the gig. But Mrs. 52 Qs is going to be joining me next week, and we're going to talk about why metadata is so important. And she has a very unique perspective on this because with the briefing room that we're doing with the family, and 52 Qs is getting further into publishing, we are seeing, and by we, I mean Shannon, is seeing firsthand some of the challenges that libraries faced when they wrangle metadata submitted from composers. So we are going to be, she's going to be joining us, and that's what we're going to be talking about next week, talking about metadata. So you definitely want to subscribe. And once again, thank you so much for your support. Thanks to all the family, friends, and neighbors. But that's going to do it for me this week. I hope you have an amazing week, and I know that the universe has amazing plans just for you. Until next time, everybody, peace.
The 52 Qs podcast is copyright 2025 818 Studios, all rights reserved. The music played in the podcast is copyright of their respective owners and is used with permission and for educational purposes only. For more information, including joining the community, submitting your cue for review, or becoming a member subscriber of 52 Qs, head over to 52qs.com.